In The Wire, we explored the institutions and bureaucracies which allow the drug trade to flourish. What starts off as a seemingly simple cops versus gangsters show expands into something sprawling and poignant, dissecting and analyzing the different facets of the Baltimore society which stops change for the good from taking place, and which keeps the corruption and destitution going in cycles. Some of the things explored includes the Baltimore ports, the print news media, and the broken schooling system. It's season 4, which focuses on the schools, this season being considered by many to be the show's best and most harrowing. We follow the boys of summer, Michael, Randy, Dookie, and Namond. 4 kids who start school and are friends, but whose lives spiral to places none of them could have expected. Who would have thought the quiet, mature Michael would become a cold-blooded killer, or the sweet, intelligent Randy becomes another statistic, lost in the system? Sure, if we're honest, things always looked bleak for Dookie, but you would have hoped his good nature and his intellect would have paid off. But alas, he ends up having one of the worst fates. Namond is an interesting one, because by design he is the least likable of the kids. He has terrible traits. He acts out, has a childish bravado about him, and he bullies Dookie. But the more you see of his life, the more empathy you have. You learn his father is the killer Weebay, imprisoned, and his mother, the Dragon Lady Delonda, Uff Maron. She actively pushes him to become a corner boy, so he can risk his life for her affluent lifestyle. Much of his chest beating was his way to cover his insecurity, like how he gets punked by Kennard, is too weak to get his package back from him, gets disturbed with Mike for beating the kid up, and then acts out at the gym to try and fail to assert his dominance and manhood. He was expected to be a player in the streets, and as such he had to create a facade that he was all that. Literally the first scene we see him in, on the corner with Bodie, he has no interest in the corner and the game. And yes, for sure, Namond has it easier than the others, and I really didn't like him when I started watching season 4. Even now I consider him the least likable of the kids. But you can see where he was coming from, and he just wasn't made out for the game. With The Wire, it's not about who deserves a happy ending. The fate of the characters is shaped by their choices, the environments they are in, and just plain luck. Deserves got nothing to do with it, as Snoop tells us. In the end, it was Colvin who reached out, Colvin who decided to make a difference, Colvin who took a liking to Namond, and from there one thing led to another. That's why Nay was saved. And of course we have to give credit to the likes of Cutty, to Carver, to Weebay, to Michael for slapping some sense into the boy, and Namond himself for reaching out in the first place and going against his mother's pressures. He was the most well off and the least deserving of the children to be clawed out of the system these poor kids were in, the most likely to be a part of the game, seeing as though he was already a product of it, and yet he's the only one of the kids who truly got out. And part of the reason why the gears were kicked into place was because he was loud, he stood out, and because of that, he got noticed. He got sent to Bunny's special class, unlike the likes of Michael, who was more dangerous but less noticeable. So in a way, like with guys like Herc and Valchek, it's a case of failing upwards. Now, as we know, The Wire is cynical in its outlook on Baltimore society, and its main personification of the cycles in the show, the metaphors that symbolize the never-ending nature of the game due to systemic dysfunctions, is when newer characters essentially replace the roles of established characters. Carcetti was a young, idealistic mayor with a vision to change Baltimore, but he was so beaten down by the politics and career chasing that he just became another self-serving politician, much like his predecessor Royce. One brilliant aspect of this style of storytelling is that it kind of acts like a prequel, showing us what Royce must have been like before he too became part of the machine and played the game. Michael is a clear lock-on for Omar. The show makes this clear enough. Perhaps it's especially clear because the series wants us to guess and talk about who might become who next. And maybe we can do a video in the future on all of the characters and who they become. From among the kids, we've already discussed on the channel about Randy's future, with him possibly becoming the next Proposition Joe, or even the next Marlowe, though it's unfortunately more likely he becomes the next Bodie, angry, violent, and due a death in just a few years. We all hope that Dookie is the next Bubbles, not because he'll have a lifetime of pain, but because Bubbles climbed those stairs in the end and got himself a rare happy ending. So, what about Namond? His future is more difficult to determine. We last see him in season 4 studying, being called inside by his new adoptive parents, and briefly seeing Donut drive by. The positive impact of Bunny is further proven when in season 5 we see him in a city debate competition talking about disease in Africa. So who exactly has Namond become? Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more videos like this one. Well, let's start with an interesting theory. Maybe he becomes nobody, in that there is no established character he becomes, and that's the point. The show is saying that for Michael not to become Omar, Dookie not to become Bubbles, someone has to step up. Someone has to break the cycle, reach out a helping hand to one of these kids, and in Namond's case, that was Bunny. Maybe there's nobody for him to turn into because he's no longer part of the system. The game hasn't changed, he's just not playing anymore. And that's what his cameo is saying in season 5. In that, look at what these inner city kids can achieve if their environment is different to what they currently have. Namond becomes whatever he wants to be, because he has the options the other kids don't. With that being said, there is one character who fans often suggest Namond will turn into, who I wanted to discuss today, and that is Senator Clay Davis.
The Clay Davis? Downtown Clay Davis?
Yup, the slippery snake oil salesman himself, one of the biggest crooks in the show and someone who pretty much gets off scot-free. And as the theory goes, our little innocent Namond will become the silver-tongued bullshitter.
Shit.
Now let's discuss this. I think a lot of people, myself included, don't like this theory, don't want it to be true, because Namond's ending is a happy one, it's an escape. And it's depressing and sickening to think that after his success he just becomes another player, exploiting people around him. But you gotta admit, there is some weight to this theory, and it would be a typically haunting ending, standard for The Wire. Now, the biggest indicator is that within the same episode they both share the same line, saying,
"I'll take any motherfucking money if he giving it away now."
I'll take any motherfucker's money if he giving it away.
Yeah, well, I don't want to know.
It immediately draws comparison between the two. And then you think about it. You think that, Namond still has contacts in the hood. He is relatively streetwise. Couple that street knowledge with his education, and he can become a powerful man. He could be the next Clay Davis. Remember his last scene where he says, "Mr. B, you know the mayor?" Davis knew the mayor. Namond has the tools from Bunny to begin networking and gaining contacts high up in the world of politics and policing. Take into account this line from Clay Davis when he's talking to Avon in season 1. "I know you don't want to go back to them streets, not after what you've been through. I know, because I'm from them same streets, and once I had the chance to play a different game, there wasn't a question in my mind how to go." So Clay was from the streets, and as he says, he had the chance to play a different game. We also have to take into account Nay's final scene. He is debating, and he is adept at it. He knows how to talk, to persuade people, to win them over, much like Senator Clay Davis. He also smooth talks himself out of a detention with Prez, like how Davis smooth talks his way out of court with the jury. And I know this one's a stretch, but we saw he and Donut acknowledge each other. What if they stayed in contact, and when Nay made it, given Donut's driving skills, he made him his driver, just like how Clay had Day Day, the driver from season 1 who was clearly from the streets originally. That might be Nay and Donut, fast forward a few decades. You might not like it, I might not like it, but there's muscle to this theory. Then again, the fact that they share a significant line, which is often used as the main evidence for this theory, doesn't actually mean much. There are loads of repeated lines in the show, like Daniel saying to Burrell, "Do what you feel," which Slim Charles says to Omar when he has him at gunpoint. Does this mean Daniel's become Slim? The phrase "soft eyes" also comes up by both a cop and a teacher, and there's numerous other examples. Just because Nay has an articulate way of speaking and comes from the hood doesn't mean he's on his way to become a crooked politician. You'd think that at the very least Colvin, being as stand-up as he is, would advise Nay and ensure he comes out decent and cleans his whole act up. Maybe the duplicate line is there to show you how Namond could have turned out, how he was destined to turn out, had Bunny not stepped in and pumped some good and decency into the boy. It's a jump, and a big jump. But then again, he's got plenty of time to become like Clay, and in fact he might just utilize Bunny's wisdom to become better at manipulating those around him. Nay is like a version of D'Angelo, or maybe Wallace, since Wallace was also disturbed by what he saw in the game, but he's a version who managed to get out. D even had a mother like Namond's who pushed him into the corner boy lifestyle. There is no indication that Namond becomes a cop. Bunny might have even advised against it, so this rules out a lot of characters that he could potentially become. But if he did become a cop, the conversation becomes a lot more interesting. Bunk, maybe? He always came off to me as a guy who grew up in the streets but got a solid education. As he himself says,
I was a few years ahead of you at Edmondson, but I know you remember the neighborhood, how it was. We had some bad boys for real. My father had me on the straight. But like any young man, I wanted to be hard too. So I would turn up at all the house parties where the tough boys hung. Shit, they knew I wasn't one of them. Them hard cases would come up to me and say, "Go home, schoolboy, you don't belong here." Didn't realize at the time what they were doing for me.
Replace Bunk's father with Colvin, and this is practically a carbon copy story of Namond's storyline. He was kept on the straight and narrow by his father. The gangsters around him knew he wasn't one of them. It's a solid match, and a way better way for Namond to turn out. The Clay Davis theory, though, it's got some real legs. And I don't like the idea that Nay, after managing to get out and do something positive with his life, becomes a slime ball. But it would be another perfectly depressing ending for a Wire character. But what do you think? Can you see Namond becoming the next Clay Davis? Who do you think he'll become? Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.